Indian education system doesn't really give you vision, right? I think when I went to the US, it really gave me the opportunity to interact with people from completely different backgrounds, have some of the closest friends.
In the end, it comes to individual, be it here or outside. But in terms of personality building, definitely international wins any day. People say कि इंडिया में जो धंधा करने का तरीका होता है वो बहुत अलग होता है, और कई बार ऐसा भी लोग डायलॉग मारते हैं कि जिसने इंडिया में बिजनेस कर लिया वो पूरे दुनिया में भी कहीं पे भी कर लेगा.
Such
What format or what schedule do you follow to have a good overlooking over every department?
I heard this from Niranjan Hiranandani sir once, that he said try to be 1% better every day, and he speaks about this a lot. And I was just like, that's what, everyone's coming in to do good work and they want to work, and you have to give them that opportunity and the platform.
That is also all about like execution all the time, like execute, and he has this quote: you don't win on emotion, you win on execution.
Absolutely.
One book, belief, or anything that completely changed something in you?
I think perfectionism, like going after making things perfect, is just pointless, and it's a myth, and it shouldn't even be chased. It's about execution. The more you do things, the better you get.
Hello everyone, welcome to Speaking Real Estate Podcast, and today with us we have Ayushi Ashar from the Ashar Group. And welcome Ayushi, and very happy to have you, and so glad that I got this opportunity to have this time with you and learn more from you
No,
about real
thank you,
estate.
Krish, for having me here. I've seen a bunch of your podcasts, and I think it's a great learning experience for everyone who probably wouldn't know about the real estate industry up closely. So I think you're doing a great job with it.
Thank you so much. So, talking about your whole journey, would want to start with your education itself.
So I did my undergrad in the US. I was at Emory University in Atlanta. I studied finance and consulting. So I did that for 4 years. And I did a bunch of work experiences while I was still studying. So I was with JP Morgan, then I was with the real estate private equity fund. After that, I was with a VC fund for about a year, part time, while I was studying. And after all of that experience, I thought, it's a good time to come back and really join the business. It was a good time for Indian real estate. A lot had happened. I think it was just when demonetization had happened, GST had come in, but real estate was still, on a growth curve. And so I wanted to be a part of the changing ecosystem versus, coming in when everything is kind of set on a plateau. So I decided that, yeah, probably it's the best time to come in, and you get a lot more accountability and ownership and ability to drive change when you come in early, and that was the thought process.
Asking more about your education, so you worked during that time itself. Was it like working and studying at the same time or after
Yeah, so
studying?
in my final year, when I was working with the with the VC fund, it was studying and working together. The others were internships
Post
that I
studies?
did during. So it
During
was
the
my
study.
sophomore year, my junior year, and then my senior year, I was working part time with the VC fund. So yeah, it was juggling both.
So, before that, the education was in India, right?
Yes.
So, want to have a debate with you about Indian education versus international education. You can choose for or against, whatever you wish.
For undergrad or for like before?
Overall, we can speak about like, is Indian education in today's time preferable for people want to do undergrad, postgrad, or international?
I'm a hardcore believer of uh, going abroad while you can for undergrad, more so than postgrad. I don't postgrad, I feel, is optional, and but undergrad, I feel it really shapes you because uh, I don't know how to say this nicely, but yeah, I feel the Indian education system doesn't really give you vision, right? I think when I went to the US, what it did for me was it really gave me the opportunity to interact with people from completely different backgrounds, have some of the closest friends across the world, participate in all the things I wanted to, multiple things at the same time. So I could be doing a dance class while I was studying math, and I was studying econ, and I was applying to the B school, and I was part of this entrepreneurship club, and it was everything, right? Which and that was really what added a lot of meaning to that experience. And also being away, so far away from family, I think you really become your own person. And more than anything about education, I mean, Indian education is great. You have IITs, you have great institutions in India as well. So nothing on the academic front. But I think just going away in a different environment, away from your family, away from your comfort zone, and becoming your own person, I think that is the most important aspect, um, that an education institution, gives you at an undergrad level. That self confidence, decision making, ability to make friends, network, find your job situation on your own. All the internships that I worked in was, I did that myself. So all those small or big decisions that you make, which shapes you as a person, and 17 to 21, which is that age where you are shaped as a person, versus 25, 27, when you're already, you have.
You have your own personality by that time.
Exactly. So I think my entire life going forward is probably shaped by those 4 years, and because of the freedom and the opportunities it gave me. So
Definitely would agree with you on the personality making side or seeing a life from a different aspect while it would be in India. But to go against the point of having international education, totally, I would want everyone who could afford it to experience at least 1 year of international life because it gives a different aspect of life. But coming back to Indian education and benefits that it has, I would say one thing is that certain times, certain kind of students or youth do require a certain protection from their family to not get into bad influences,
100%.
which sometimes ruins some students, some youth. And also another point is like, if I would say from my experience, definitely that goes with the person's mindset and how do they want to do in those years.
See, but I feel, that's based on what you make of an opportunity, right? And that's very individualistic and can't be generalized. So any opportunity that you're given, it's on you, what to make of it. You can intern there if you want, you can come back, you can intern here. Uh, it depends on the level of exposure that you want for yourself and where you see yourself growing. So
In the end, it comes to individual, and everyone can make the best of their time, be it here or outside. But in terms of personality building, definitely international wins any day.
yeah, I mean that's what it did for me, which is what I can speak by. But nothing to take away from my years in India. I think they were formative. My school, my high school, those were formative to really again being grounded as a person. I think all of that came from the earlier education institutions, which was very much in India. But my experience in the US was all about exposure for me. So having that variety in experiences and the right experience at the right time, I think is important.
पीपल से कि इंडिया में जो धंधा करने का तरीका होता है वो बहुत अलग होता है और कई बार ऐसा भी लोग डायलॉग मारते हैं कि जिसने इंडिया में बिजनेस कर लिया वो पूरे दुनिया में भी कहीं पे भी कर लेगा.
सच है.
So, like having a business exposure or some internship or some working experience in US does make a difference while someone just having that exposure here while studying.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, absolutely. Because I think those were the internships that really opened my mind. Honestly, before those internships, the only thing I knew was that I don't want to do real estate. So and it was through these internships that I really figured out that no, I'm looking at real estate in India with a very small lens and in a very conservative way. And these are the internships that actually exposed me to the fact that real estate is such a big oyster of opportunities. And if you can really do it in the right way, you can really grow in this business. And it's not the traditional minded, where you see that it's just the bureaucracy, it's just, your engineering and things like that. There are so many different aspects of real estate that you can actually venture into and do a really good job at. And all of these work experiences kind of showed me that.
I do feel the same. Like when you are a little younger, like maybe 10th grade or lower, I would see like it is a very dangerous or like stalwart like kind of business, very difficult to crack, and it didn't feel that welcoming in the initial
Yes.
years. It doesn't feel that open for anyone to come in, but definitely with some little time spent in the office or business gives you ki you can do it, and it is something to look up to, and once you start loving it.
Yeah. And also because so I never studied engineering or anything. I studied finance and I wanted to do investment banking and the very traditional finance route. I don't know, what did you study?
I did BBA only in
BBA, yeah.
NMIMS.
So for me it was very daunting that okay, I don't know anything about the production side. I don't understand steel, cement, how to really build a building. मतलब कुछ समझ ही नहीं आता था, सोचा ही नहीं था कभी. But then yeah, my first internship, I was recruiting for investment banking, got placed in the real estate division at JP Morgan in the portfolio management side, and it just opened my eyes to the finance side of real estate, and it's a crazy huge opportunity. And so from there I did, I wanted to explore the private equity side, which um, internationally, private equity is a lot about, in general, it's a lot about you're working with capital from different investors. And in India, basically, what developers do again, just with their own money, is, you pick up a distressed asset, any type of redevelopment that we're doing, or whether it's an SRA or any type of distressed asset that you take on, and then, convert to a grade A asset is in some way very similar to private equity, just that you're doing it with your own funds or probably, some financial institutions that are funding you. So that again was very exciting to me because I started with understanding the numbers of it. And yeah, then decided to come
So,
back in.
how did you did say that those internships and having that work exposure in the real estate side in the US helped you make a decision that you would want to join real estate. Can you talk about that journey where you started switching towards going back to India to join the family business?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to come back at some point because I saw a great opportunity in the Indian market. But I wanted to be my own person before I came back because in India, especially when you're young, uh, unless and until you find great mentors, you can get swayed, I feel, in general. And so I wanted to be my own person, and I did all of these work experiences through which I had, certain to a certain extent I had my own decision making capability. And I knew that if I came back, because I've seen these aspects of the world, I can come back and add value to the business. And that was one criteria that I was very sure about. I was lucky and fortunate that it happened, by the time I graduated, or I felt satisfied by my ability. If that hadn't happened, I would have probably stayed back and worked there for 1 or 2 years till I really felt that, I am a whole person that can really add value to an institution or any corporate or any company that I join. Because especially, I knew if I was coming back, I was interested in real estate and I would be joining my family business. And when you know that, uh, being in the family business is also tricky, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to come in and you want to make sure that you're coming in and you're having certain impact, and there are certain pressures, all of those things that add in, to your decision making. So yeah, I knew that I didn't want to, and I think my father was also very, forward looking and visionary in that aspect as well, that we didn't want to create clones of each other. I didn't want to, I shadowed him for a long time to understand the business, but I didn't want to shadow him to build on his core competencies. His core competencies are his, and that's what made the business what it is today. But if I'm coming into the business, I have to add value and develop my own core competencies. And so that was the biggest decision making point, that do I feel that I have the capability to add value.
So, two ways of thinking when a new generation is entering the business. One is like some pressure is already there because some work is established and you have to continue to do that or maybe bring an impact. And another is like possibilities. So, pressure or possibilities. What do you think you looked at as like, let's say, if I can try to bring out my experience where I feel a little bit more of pressure and a little bit less of possibility, considering knowing that I have to do certain things which will be on my plate. Because let's say a second generation is entering, everything is set also. So even if a well established business is there, and even if you don't do anything, still it works and everything is there, and you can look at a possibility of doing something completely different, new areas. But whereas in some cases, it would be like, the first generation is falling weak, or some situation is there where certain pressure comes on the second generation when it's entering. So what was your situation and how did you deal?
So for me, I didn't look at the pressure aspect at all. It honestly wasn't pressure for me, because it was my choice to come back. It's different if you're out of choices and then you're coming back. But it was my active choice to come back, and I came back because I saw the possibilities, and I wanted to be a part of the growth curve. And I remember dad and I, we had constant discussions where he was like, "No, you have such a great offer there. Why don't you stay back?" And I was like, "No, if I spend 2 years here and I get adapted to the US way of working, it's going to take me 1 year to come back and then adapt myself to the Indian ecosystem, because they're very, very different in the way they operate. And I want to come back when, we're at a growing stage." And when I came back, I think Asher had completed 18 years. Then now we're on our 25th year now, and so it was 18 years of a lot of foundation building and making sure we have a very, very good foundation, very good team, and all of that he had built single handedly. And when I came in, we had this clear discussion that, now is the time where we're looking at going from X to like 5X, 10X. And that's the journey we want to take. And I'm an active part of making that journey happen. And so that was the possibility that we were looking at. And so I came back entirely for that possibility. And we have a great working equation between us. There's complete trust, complete transparency. And so it was one of the most exciting journeys, although it was very daunting as a 21-year-old to give up a New York, opportunity. And but I think it was one of the best decisions of my life to come back.
How did you find your own voice, or how did you like find the things that you would do want to do in the organization?
Uh, I went into details, a lot of details across departments with every HOD that we have. I shadowed dad for the first 4 to 6 months to just understand his decision making, because that really impacts, that has that trickle down effect, right? So I wanted to know, how is he really looking at the big picture? How is he making decisions? And then I almost, sat with every HOD that we have and got to the details of it. So whether it was going to sites, seeing how everything is done, because again, I did not have any engineering background. So a lot of it is, everything that all these wonderful people taught me and basically took me on, as a newbie, and really taught me everything. And I'm very grateful for that. Uh, and one of the most important things again was I worked on I started with one department kind of thing, and that department was not production or marketing or anything. For me, it was finance, because that was what I was good at. And that was kind of missing, right? Because 7-10 years back, you're not Indian real estate, you're not really looking at finance. um you're not nitpicking on the finance. So that's what I started with first. I was like, this is what I know. I was like, this is how I understand companies. So let me try to build all of these models, which didn't really exist at that point. And so I built all the models for every single project at a company level, all of it. And I was like, okay, now the numbers make sense of what we're doing, why we're doing, or where we can improve. These are the type of margins, IRRs, whatever, everything that we should do to improve. So all of that then, made sense. And I mentally gave myself targets that, okay, I can't drive all of this change, at once, but let's look at these 5 parameters. And over the next 2-3 years, whenever we look at acquisitions or different projects, then maybe we can look at those parameters. So I started with really going in depth of, okay, if our construction cost is high or low, or, whatever it is, why is it that? And when I question that one thing, then you really go into the details of every single line item on the cost sheet. When you go into the details of it, then you go into the quality check of every single line item. When you get to the quality, you look at all the different variety that you have. Then you get into the design as to why this particular thing is picked. When you get to the design, you get to the FSI consumption. So it's a trickle down, but you have to get to the details and you have to get your hand dirty. That's the only way to find your own voice, because I don't want to speak wrong and I don't want to have a wrong opinion. It has to have some base. If I'm putting forth my opinion, and that's the only way that it would hold weight, right, in a room full of industry seniors. So yeah, that was the only way.
So your way into moving into the business was through finance, and I believe everyone has their own different ways based on where
What
they
was
excel more.
yours?
So it has been marketing. So this podcast has been one of the major reasons. So built the department from zero. Now we have a good 8 9 people team that can take care of everything. But now moving into other departments, learning
Like,
about everything. I relate so much about like shadowing that which was done during the bachelor's years, and now like learning the details from heads about the FSI calculation, feasibilities, and acquisition manipulation societies, so many things. And construction is a weak area, weak spot where a lot of technical terms and knowledge is required, which I believe with time will be fine. About finance, so is it anything that you would want to say out to people if like someone is having zero idea about finance and real estate? Like if someone wants to start having a hold into that department, how would you recommend them going into project cost sheets or looking at the company level prof P&L?
I mean, see, those are budgeting exercises. Finance in real estate is also very different with regards to, what type of funding you're taking on, what are the interest costs associated with it, what are the different avenues where you can actually get funding. And now the Indian market has opened up to so many different avenues in general. So I feel with finance in particular, the diverse your background is, the better it is, because the world is getting, more and more connected. The regulations are getting opened up sooner rather than later. And so, whatever is happening in different parts of the world, sooner or later, it would come in place in India as an ecosystem. And so it's nice to have that variety, and then you can really figure out how how to crack the best deal and what is the best opportunity.
Does Asha Group has any preference on particular kind of funding?
We work with different types. Construction finance is the very
General
general
go to.
general go-to format that we work with.
Because lately, like a lot of companies have been forming AIFs of their own. They are preferring that. And also, that breaks a link for getting funding at the land level as well. Multiple formats are out there right now. I believe construction finance is the simple, most aware format for
Yeah,
everyone. So, that is majorly being
yeah.
applicable by most of the developers as well.
Yeah, so all of these different methods, they all have different, regulatory parameters, and also the cost of funding varies across. So it's different for every
Yes,
project.
project to project varies a lot.
Yeah.
What about your experiences in different other departments, moving on finance to then other departments?
Yeah, so I did, now I look into sales, marketing, design strategy, acquisitions. Um, so I mean, all of those departments, I feel real estate in general, it has to work like a well-oiled machine. If you're not getting if you're not doing the sales, you're not getting the cash flows. Once the cash flows come in, they have to go into production. So it's that management that has to work really well. And I also feel that eventually you have to have a really good team that is able to make this well-oiled machine work, because there are so many moving parts, and something or the other is constantly like it's like every single day you are firefighting. Something or the other has happened in some project, and that's just the nature of this business. So having that really good foundation and a team that you can rely on makes the whole process a lot easier.
Since you are involved in multiple departments, so right now I also do experience that, but after a certain point of knowledge that you have, that you can take the follow-ups or a reporting format or some reports that will make sure that everything is going around well. What format or what schedule do you follow to have a good overlooking over every department that you?
Yeah, I mean, I have my review mechanisms set. As I said, the first team that I set up was like an MIS team. So even if I don't, have a review, I get the reports, and it's exactly in the format that I want. And they know, by just me telling them that this is how they should make it. So that's a very important department. We have our usual sales, marketing reviews, production reviews. We do We call it the EPD meeting. It's every fortnight we have this meeting of every single head is present. Dad's present. I'm present, and we go through engineering, production, and design. That's the EPD, because that's where most of the time we see a lot of lags that happen. That this person has not communicated something to the next person, and that's where the delay happens usually. So we have that every fortnight. So everyone's on the same page about what is the big picture goal and what are we really leading towards. On our sites, we have a very aggressive mechanism of how many days is what is the total timeline of the project. So if it's 1,000-day cycle, 960 days are done, and you have only 40 days to go, and that gets circulated every single day. So every person to the to each and every laborer knows that he has to finish that project in the next 40 days, 45 days, or whatever that scoreboard is saying. um, I do visit site often as well, especially RCC. I feel is still very structured. It happens. We have a 7 day slab cycle. It happens, but at the finishing stages, I do visit a lot because there are a lot of quality parameters that come in and require detailing. So yeah, those type of review mechanisms. You have to be completely in and involved in the business, and you have to go to site. So certain issues can get solved only on site, and you cannot sit in the head office and close those issues. So you have to be um, going to site and figuring all of those things out.
One thing I would want to learn. So, definitely, I am the start at a starting position where you started 7, 8 years ago, and what the learning that I want is that how would you let go of a certain kind of thing which should work perfectly as you want, but your involvement in that particular thing should get reduced with time so that you can take on more tasks and more things that should be looked upon.
Getting the right people in and then training those people. Often, we get the right people in, but we don't have the time to train them. You have to train them to with your vision, right? Or they need to know what your vision is. And of course, you give people the freedom to do it their way, but you at least have to communicate what your big picture goal is with them, especially if it's a senior resource. If it's someone a little bit more junior, then yes, you have to have that little bit of hand holding time and training them. So having a good team is the first step, I feel, to really achieving that. And I think second is, and I've learned this from dad actually, is that actually let go, because that's when the other person really shines and develops it themselves. Because till you're nitpicking and involved and like going through every detail, they never have accountability, because they know that अच्छा कोई ना कोई आकर check करेगा और मुझे questions पूछेंगे तो ठीक है, मेरी responsibility नहीं है. And that's what my dad did with me as well, right? Like after the first 1 or 2 years, he was just like, okay, now go do your thing, figure it out. Come to me when you have issues or where you need my help, but I trust you to go and figure it out yourself and do it your way. And I think that's the beauty. If you have capable people, you have to give them that freedom, and you have to know when to let go.
I feel this is perfect. Like finding the right people and then letting it go will actually make the thing happen.
And see, they will make mistakes, or there might be places where it's not 100% up to mark, but that's okay. That's a part of their learning curve and their growth story, and you have to give them that opportunity. And I think perfectionism, like going after making things perfect, is just pointless, and it's a myth, and it shouldn't even be chased. It's about execution. The more you do things, the better you get, and that's the only goal type of a thing. Um I heard this from Niranjan Hiranandani sir once, that he said try to be 1% better every day, and he speaks about this a lot. And I was just like, that's what, everyone's coming in to do good work, and they want to work, and you have to give them that opportunity and the platform. And then what they make of it, and even if they are completely, it's on them to some extent. You have given them that platform, and you have to keep motivating them to perform better.
Right. That is also all about like execution all the time, like execute, execute. And he has this quote: you don't win on emotion, you win on execution.
Absolutely.
So, you being a girl and another thing is you everyone in the organization is older than you. So how did you deal with that? Was it a smooth process? At times it might be smooth for everyone, but sometimes you might face some hurdles. So if you can share that experience.
Honestly, I was raised to be very independent. I was never raised in an environment where I felt differently. And I think this difference kind of little bit starts internally also. To me, I mean, I know a lot of people face a lot of differences and discrimination, and I think the thing that you can do is one good thing about our organization we is that we have women in leadership as well, and dad has really never differentiated between even the type of opportunities that he gave me. I today I look at a lot of the land acquisitions as well. Often people think before really doing that because it's not the most glamorous exciting part. But he never differentiated, and so it's never only when people ask is that something that I think about and talk, but I've never really differentiated that in my mind. In fact, it's more like it was great to be young in the room because you're young and you're coming in with so much energy and everyone's looking at you that okay, uh, let's see what you have, to bring to the table. And I was excited to prove myself and uh, really prove that okay, I'm not just here sitting here and smiling at you, but I'm really here to prove myself. And a lot of that comes from within, and I feel you have to train yourself to think about all of those things. It okay, it sometimes people might have opinions and presumptions that they make. I've heard some crazy presumptions about myself as well. So it's a part of the thing, but why should I focus on any of that? Maybe it takes you slightly, like it may take me two tries to convince someone for something, or I need to maybe go a little bit more in detail, and be prepped for the counter questions that are going to come. But that's a part of, I'm learning more in that process, so it doesn't matter to me what the other person's really thinking. It's about my hard work, my capability, what I bring to the table. um and a huge part of this is, yes, having a supportive team is very important. Find the right mentors who are not uh, putting you down, and lead with equality, because I feel the biggest example that you can set for your organization is also when people look at you as a leader. Right now it's been 5-7 years where they're looking that I'm leading in a certain way, and I feel that's caused the switch in their mind that whatever we do, there's nothing's going to change here. So we'd rather not look at all of these differences and then lead, um, uh, or just participate in this endeavor of growth that we're all working towards.
What kind of culture do you try to make in the organization?
A lot of integrity. Integrity, I think, is the most important, especially in real estate as a business or any business for that matter. Uh, Growth, people wanting to grow personally, professionally, both are equally important. I feel for your individual journey, and even you growing as an individual personally leaves its imprint on the organization. Uh, so we're very focused on that. We like to have an open door culture where people can really voice their opinions and speak their mind. We don't want to create clones, as I said. Everyone needs to bring in their own flavor, and that's important. Um, Execution. We want people who are very action oriented. That you're not sitting on an idea for 6 months and then telling me, oh, this is a great idea. I mean, every idea is a great idea. But we want someone who can really, okay, this is an idea. I'm just going to go try, fail. It's okay. We will support you completely if you tried something and it didn't work out. But if you're sitting on something for 6 months, that's not going to, that's not something that really sits well with us. So execution and action, and I think last is relationships. It's like our tagline says promises delivered, and I think it's something so integral to not just us now. It's our customers come and tell us, sometimes that your tagline says promises delivered, and like this salesperson has told me XYZ things, and so we're like, okay, yes, if someone from our organization has given you a commitment, we will abide by it. Uh, and it goes to every single stakeholder, right? That's to a customer, to a financial institution, to a vendor, to a contractor. We're the only real estate company with zero RERA complaints, zero consumer court complaints, zero um, litigations, anything of that sort. And that's a huge part of it is integrity and relationships, and we want to maintain that. That's the foundation that we built, and we want people and our teams to really be proud of that foundation. And then, of course, you have to be innovative, you have to think on your feet. All of those things, I feel, can come in different ways, but your hard work, your integrity, and ability to take action, those are
I believe
fundamental.
those are great points on two levels. One is like all of these about executing, initiating new ideas from integrity and having a perfect mindset helps the person in that position also to grow themselves, and that eventually makes the organization
Yeah,
grow.
yeah. Like I'll give you an example. We started this fitness thing in office, and this has been a couple years now. And one of our heads, he actually was able to fight his diabetes issue, which he had for a really long time, through those sessions, through the diet programs. And it was so strict that we had a group chat, and in the group chat every day, everyone, including dad, and dad would monitor it personally, that you have to put what you're eating with the nutritionist, because it was like, if the target is that you need to get, then you have to then we're focused on the target. So yeah, from that, we've now I've just started an initiative called Mind Matters, and it's a conversation that we have with I have some friends in the Vedanta Academy, and it's just about how you can know yourself at a deeper level. Because when you have a big team of 300, 400 people, at least that's our size, um it's hard for us to know everyone on such a deep level. And dad and I are seeing that more and more, that we're not able to have that one-on-one connect. So, where, like, and people are coming and spending 8-10 hours in the office. So where do you go and vent? Sometimes someone creates some groups, but otherwise, outside of that, where do you go and speak about your daily problems? And those are the things that eventually, impact your mindset and then have ripple effects. So we started this initiative, and it's something so beautiful. Like, someone comes up, and sometimes, the first few questions someone asked was like, "I'm a mother, and when should I know that, where how do I know when to give in or when to let go? Like, how do I know that I'm overdoing, or, is it just my duty to do that?" And these type of questions you don't even think about. But when you have someone who you can just,
So you personally attend to them?
so we have someone from the Vedanta Academy. He comes in and he gives sessions about how do you deal with ego, how do you deal with, they're very functional things. Spirituality is a big part of our journey as a family, and so this as well. These are a lot of spiritual discussions that happen. Completely, I mean, normal conversations, and yeah. So we have these type of conversations where someone's talking about, one interesting question was, my work personality. So this was someone from the CRM department, and they're like, CRM requires me to be aggressive, and I need to keep asking for money from customers. But that's really not my personality. So do I consider that that's growth, or do I think that this is not aligned with what my personal journey is, and do I not do this? And such interesting questions and such interesting answers, which we wouldn't even think that someone's actually thinking this way, because we're just thinking, acha, ye collection target hai, ye karna hai, and that's the end of that discussion. But through these type of conversations, um, it's just so beautiful what has come out of it. So it's something we started only like about 2 months ago. So we're excited to
No,
see
it's a
just
very
how that
interesting thing.
goes.
I think so
Yeah,
that I will try to make it happen at our place definitely.
yeah. I'll give you the
For
connect
sure,
of
for sure. If I may ask, how many family members are there in Asha Group?
just four of us. So mom, dad, my brother, and me.
Up till now, since I've joined in our business, it was only dad who was the single person from the family, and everyone else was from outside blood relations.
Oh,
Definitely
in the business. Yeah,
in the business.
it's just dad and me now. Yeah.
So would want to know your opinions because yes, it's working good. We are having growth as well, but how a difference comes up when a family member enters the business?
I don't think. Um, I mean, I've had dad, and it's been me who has entered. So I think it's beautiful. I think it's you can rely on that person wholeheartedly. I mean, all your integrity, trust, loyalty, all of those issues kind of just go away, right? And I think it's beautiful to also see their journey unravel. Like my brother, he's younger than me. He's 6 years younger. He's 22 now. Um, and he's again trying to diversify and set up something of his own. And it's just beautiful to see that journey and see them really evolve as individuals. And we're talking about family, but honestly, we don't really view our team as any different from our core team is, we have people who have been 25 years in the business with us. They are family. I see them every single day. They know more about my life than probably even my friends at some point because they see me day in, day out. Uh, so they are all family to us, and we don't view it as, okay, it's just dad and me and we are family and we're a unit. It's I don't think we've ever really thought of it that way. But yes, of course, it's nice to be able to chat at dinner table, when it's just mom, dad, Yash, and me, and we're chatting and we're thinking about how do we really grow this? What do we do? It's nice to have that sounding board that you can completely trust and be like, okay, no idea is a crazy idea. And so those dinner table conversations, I think, are the most meaningful and have been the most impactful in creating some big decisions in the business. And it actually started out with my grandfather and my grandparents, actually. We lost them a few years ago, but every day dad would come home, it would probably be 11:30. My grandfather would be sitting on the sofa waiting for him to come. Grandmother would be there. We would all be sitting and we would be waiting for him to come back and give us a whole download of what his day has been. And it was usually a conversation just between my grandfather and dad, and we were all just listening because. But it was just so great to be a fly on the wall, and I think a lot of whatever I've learned has been through those conversations. Um, so yeah, the ability to have that and keep that going, I think, is the most beautiful part of.
Would definitely agree that from day zero only those integrity and related things check boxes are kicked off from day zero if a family member is entering. But definitely the people who have been there for years, it's the same for them as well, and it does feel like a family. I feel जितना टाइम घर पर बिताते हैं उससे ज़्यादा तो ऑफिस में ही जाता है, and the people who we work with are more of a family itself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Ashar Group has started from Thane,
Yes.
and right now it's penetrating its portfolio across Bombay, in Central, in Western as well. So if you can give us a uh, idea of current portfolio of Ashar Group.
Yeah, so we started out 25 years ago in Thane. That was 2001 when dad founded the company. Since then, we have grown across. So, our current portfolio, we have projects in Thane. Um, we just completed a project in Ghatkopar. This legend that we're in right now, this is one of our flagship projects in Pali Hill. We're also looking at launching larger gated communities in the Thane Mulund region, looking at education as a vertical that we're trying to expand. We're looking at townships as well. We have a larger land parcel in Dombivli and Lonavala that we're looking to, go out and expand into the MMR region. So it's for us, it's yes, Thane and the central suburbs is our bread and butter. It's where most of our projects are. Most of the people know us, but we're trying to venture out now across geographies where we think we can really add value, and also across verticals. So currently, we have a portfolio. We have residential, commercial, IT parks, schools, and hospitals. Is kind of, so our portfolio is quite widespread. But now we're picking each portfolio and seeing how do we really expand into the education portfolio further. How do we really expand to the gated communities and townships module? how do we look at real estate as an ecosystem creator and kind of figure out an innovation ecosystem, if we can really do that, whether it is through a venture studio model or using architectural AI, supporting circular economy, a lot of initiatives that we can run in house. So that's the plan for 2026, to see how real estate can be. Of course, traditional real estate, which is your residential commercial, will be our bread and butter, but how do we really expand uh, across the different verticals and play big on the larger vision, which is sustainability, whether it is circular economy, using tech in real estate? Because when you see real estate, it is you're selling, at least in the MMR region, you're selling homes above 1 crore. And when you're selling that ticket size, you have access to a huge consumer base that, when we look at real estate, we're looking at it as a very narrow minded view. But you, through your societies, through the different ancillary industries, your vendors, steel, cement, material, everything, you get so much exposure to so many different industries uh, that you can actually create a very diversified portfolio for the future. And that's kind of what we're looking at now. We're looking at tech in a big way, um, and using tech as an enabler to make a very traditional business module. How do we use tech as an enabler and um, make it more dynamic and make the scale larger? So again, because real estate is so geographic centric, we're all often limited, right? Like, we started in the central suburbs 20-25 years, we're still expanding in the central suburbs. Now we're looking at expanding across, and that's the case for every developer. They're more known in their markets and micro markets that they're present in. It can be at an MMR level, it can be at a state level, but or in a regional level. But there are a lot of regional players that you will get when you look at developers as an industry. So how do we use this entire tech and innovation ecosystem to enable real estate to be more diversified, to reach more people? uh, because if we have that reach, and if we can kind of s- cover up on that hurdle, then we have a much wider audience and a much wider play, and that's what we're looking at now.
Definitely, tech in today's time is an enabler to things that wouldn't be possible 5 years or 10 years down the line. So, having two different kind of projects. One is like this Legend, which is luxury, hardly like with no density. I would say like hardly two-digit flats in
Yeah.
a uh, development, versus like having thousands of flats in a gated township. So, if you can say the mindset you should have in two different projects and speak about the difference these two projects can have.
It's very different. um where you have, we have projects where we're doing 1,000 units, more than that, even 2,000 units in the project. And there it's a lot about community living. And people are also choosing those projects for all of that. Whereas for something like the Legend, people are choosing this for its exclusivity. So it's a completely different mindset of the consumer itself that is coming in. They're choosing the Legend for its exclusivity, for the ultra luxury lifestyle, for a certain sense of status, location advantage, and just it's a bespoke curation almost. It's a one of a kind project, which calls for those type of consumers as well. Anyone who's buying in the Legend is almost a legend themselves in their own respective field. Uh, and so you're catering to that audience who wants anything, at who can get anything. They can just ask for it, and they get it. And so you're trying to build something for that audience. um Whereas when you're looking at these gated communities, um these are very this is the majority of India, very functional, aspirational, still very practical in their approach to their budgets, family planning, their way of life. They're really trying to make their mark, and their home is a part of that ecosystem. everything that probably they couldn't, get in their life, they want to give to their parents and children. And uh, they really come in with that mindset. And so that's the thought process also that goes in planning, right from the planning stage, about how do we really make these units efficient, how is it really going to impact their way of life. So I think it starts, that seed starts at the design stage, or honestly even at the acquisition stage. When we acquire a piece of plot, we see whether what is the right inventory mix here, and then we design accordingly. But they're both very, very different consumers, and as an organization, it's I think it really builds our capability to deal across the spectrum and cater to a larger part of India. We do premium, we do affordable, we do ultra luxury. So we do gated communities. All of these, it's across the spectrum, and each comes with its own set of principles or their own check boxes, as to what would make them really choose this particular location or real estate project.
I feel as a developer or organization, it's an achievement for any organization who has been able to do these two completely different kind of projects. Because at times I have noticed that some people who have done affordable development, and like then they try to do luxury, but sometimes it doesn't give the success that initially the person or any developer thinks of. So having that capability and building onto that, because let's say, um, if we would talk about some people who uh, came from a different perspective, like not everybody has richness or luxury taste as well, and it goes vice versa from a luxury developer entering into affordable as
Or your version of luxury would be different from my version of luxury. It's subjective.
going against your own principles of doing a project, where sometimes you have to see cost budgeting in a gated community, where as in a luxury development you have to completely block your mind and spend money on the marketing material, the deliverables, the interiors of the sample show flat.
Yeah.
So everything is completely opposite.
So I completely agree, and the type of learning that these multiple asset classes have given the organization is beautiful. And but it stems back to our design philosophy. Our design philosophy is actually urban maximalism, and the way we look at it is, it has three components. One is that we're always planning inside out, irrespective of the project or the geography. Um, we are thinking of the consumer and then planning what he would want. Um, the second is, we're planning for an effortless maintenance. Your consumer can be someone in Thane or someone in Pali Hill. But no one wants to spend crazy amount of time just maintaining real estate. And one thing about real estate is that if it's not maintained, you're never going to get the type of appreciation you want in the long term. So we're planning for the building to be as future ready, but also as efficient. And that's a big part of our internal external planning. And the third thing is, how do we do right to the location? It can be Pokhran Road in Thane, it can be Mulund, it can be Ghatkopar, it can be Bali Hill. Each location is different. And how do we make sure that this project that we have is doing right to the location and that urban fabric of that location? So I think these are the three principles that we think of when we're thinking of how do we really design a project. And in general, we have had through our track record, we've wanted to make that difference. So whether it was Ashar IT Park, which was the largest and biggest IT park back in 2008 when we launched it. Navrose was one of the flagship projects of Pali Hill. It's one of the only assets which was the facade is completely tile cladded. This one, the legend, is an upgrade from that. The entire facade is stone cladded, stone limestone coming from Turkey, one of its kind. We did Billabong School, which is now Finland International, which was the first international school of Thane. So uh, just in that way, we want our projects to have meaning and have an impact and change that urban fabric. So we're not going after 20 projects, 50 projects, and that's not really in our mind. We want to handpick our projects. We like to be boutique that way. We like to be picky. We're ambitious, but we're still picky. And we want to make sure that we're really juicing out everything from those particular projects for every single stakeholder, not for ourselves, but for the whole ecosystem at large.
I feel definitely a great learning on this part about projects selection and about the right mindset for each particular kind of project depending on the area, location, target audience. Moving on to a little bit ending about knowing you as a person and your personality. There are times when every person has some self doubts or stress blocks. How would you deal with them? What would be your personal routine or ritual?
I love my workouts. My morning starts with either strength or yoga. I don't think I can start any other way. I've recently gotten into journaling, and it helps a lot because it almost sets my intention for that day, and it helps me from, when you're doing like two, three different things. And um, as I said, right now, like we're in the process of actually building a lot of these things for 2026. And so you're just like pulled in different directions. So it helps me set my focus and intention. Um, Travel, I think it just opens you up completely, takes you like, I just love being picked up from here and just put into a whole different country, location, anything. You put me like even on a beach, you put me in the hills, it doesn't matter. Anywhere, just out of the.
What's your favorite place to travel?
I don't have a favorite place. It's for me, traveling is also a lot about the people I travel with.
Yes.
Because yeah, it's just it's something I like to experience with someone. And some of the most wonderful experiences have been this Himalayan trek that I've done. It's a complete backpacking thing that I did with my cousin. 5 days living in camps, like no washrooms, nothing. The pure
Yes. I did
experience.
that one of Kedar Kantha.
Oh, did you do it with India Hikes?
Yes, I did it with India
I did
Hikes.
Kuari Pass with India Hikes, and that was amazing. We recently did diving with a couple friends, loved it. So I like different experiences. It shouldn't be the same. It's so travel is a big part of it. Hanging out with my nieces, nephews, family, friends. I think you just start seeing life so differently when these like kiddos are, coming up to you and like talking in the cutest of voices. I feel it just changes your whole perspective.
I feel having those time away from work, like be it travel or even few hours with friends, cousins, like brings so much of happiness back into life and
Yeah. You're just like,
gets
what was I worried about? Like,
yes.
it does not matter.
Also gets you prepared for the next day or the next time when you are like then you are also waiting to go back and kill it when you're going
What
to work.
about you? I would want to know.
So I do workout and I feel right now at this point of time workouts have like I'm planning to train for a competition Ironman 70.3, but
Wow.
I don't know if it happened. I want to do it before I have my next birthday. So will it be in this year or 2026? I'm not sure, but definitely. So that is now becoming more of
And you
a
run, right? So
yes. I
so
run.
that's like one check box.
One running is good. Cycling, I'm confident about that. Swimming is the part where I have to improve a lot.
Okay, so 2 out of 3.
Two
You
out of three. So if swimming is sorted, then it's achievable in this year. So, so since that is becoming more of a thing which I have to do, which even if my mood is not there. So right now workouts are becoming more of a duty than of giving, but definitely it helps to get some stress off or get some happiness. But traveling definitely gives me the high of life, like with friends or solo also. While I was doing my masters, I had few solo trips, and that also completely changed experience of life. Sometimes, like I never went away from my family till I went for my masters, and doing that solo trip where like you don't know anyone in the city and you're walking alone on a street as a stranger, and that thought comes into mind कि अभी कुछ हो गया तो कौन है यहाँ पे कोई भी नहीं है तो going through that and coming back again safely and bringing some memories, doing some things which nobody knows about. Like it was a solo trip. So it has given a certain kind of happiness, and definitely with friends, it's always fun. Like Matlab 2 days ago, I was just sitting with my friends at night and straight like 3-4 hours we are just talking about the previous trips, and that made us book our next trip. Like अभी करना ही पड़ेगा, अभी नहीं करेंगे तो
Yeah.
कब करेंगे? Like traveling is the thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
One book, belief, or anything that completely changed something in you.
Book, one of my favorite books is Principles by Ray Dalio. I don't know, have you read it?
No.
Read it, yeah.
I will.
I have never like of course there's a lot of advice, it's his whole journey, but it is so structured that you see the level of detailing and the advice that is coming in all through. One of my favorite books is that advice. I don't know in what way.
No, like the book changed something in you. What did it change?
It was so there's a whole section on it in detail, and what he did was that he had actually coded each individual in his company according to a certain metrics. So you have a bunch of these, psychological tests like Myers-Briggs and stuff like that. So it's not that. He had developed his own internal system through which you know each and every person's strengths or areas of improvement, and it's like you wear it as a badge almost kind of a thing, so that when you're going and giving a presentation, you know that this person's coming from this area of strength and this is their area of improvement. So you're not like constantly picking on those, because that area of improvement is probably someone else's area of strength. And so if you know from day one that this is a place where they're trying to improve themselves, you help them to improve, and that's actually used as a tool for improvement versus a tool of nagging. And if you know that this particular thing, just filter it, and this particular thing is someone else's area of strength, ask them to work on it. Let's not waste anyone's time. And so it just blew my mind as to how, everyone has strengths and weaknesses, no one's going to be good at everything, but it was so easy to create this structure and then actually help someone be like, okay, XYZ things can help you in these areas. And while you're working on this, I'm not going to put this pressure on you because your strength is this. And I'm going to move this task and give it to this person from my list who's actually really good at it, and see how this synergy really works, and see if you guys can really work together as a team. And so many different sections in that book. But yeah, this one was a really cool one that
No, definitely I'll read it now.
yeah.
So, if there is any younger person, be it from any industry, not from real estate, what advice would you give to them? Has not entered the business or career yet.
I would say, and I've said this before as well, it's find the right mentor. I think, getting that right leader at an early stage, or it can be a leader, it can be a manager, it can be a mentor, but your first equation with work, for me, it was that internship at JP Morgan. But your first equation with work, whatever it is, don't take it lightly. Like, I see so many like brilliant young minds just taking their first internship lightly कि हाँ resume में कुछ दिखाना है, but that just shapes your whole vision to life. It's not taken as seriously in India. It is just a resume thing. But finding that right leader, finding the right company where you're actually given work, where you feel valuable, where you feel like, okay, I learned something at the end and I added something. It changes your whole self confidence altogether as someone who's young and entering the workforce. So I would say don't take it कि अच्छा ठीक है एक चेक बॉक्स हमने कर लिया और बाद में really look at it as something that you can grow from and look up to.
Definitely, I think so. This is very important because I have received a lot of people just mentioning about कि internship करना है, resume पे डालना है, but nobody comes up and asks like, is there a good internship where actually they can make a difference or learn something which will help them?
And you're only going to find it if you put in that right effort, because it's no one's obligation to give
Yes,
someone an internship, right?
yes.
Job is a requirement for, a lot of companies would give you job listings, but internship, no one is obligated. So you have to find that right internship where your manager is also going to give you work. And he's not treating it as कि हाँ ठीक है यहाँ से रेफरेंस आया तो हमने इंटर्नशिप दे दी इनको, अब ठीक है उनके लिए तो बस रेज्यूमे में डालना है. Because it just shapes you. You're entering a new phase of your life, and that one experience, you having that great first internship, sets the benchmark. You're not going to accept anything lower, which is such a great thing that you're doing for yourself, I feel.
100% agree.
What about you? What do you do in your free time? Do you have advice?
For like mentorship or something that way?
Because you're also, I feel, in a similar space where you've second gen entered, and now doing a lot of initiatives that you've started on your own. Uh,
So I believe there are so many people who say कि मुझे ये करना है, मुझे वो करना है. But the difference comes in where they don't execute, which we already talked about execution. And like like talking about this podcast also, it was having that thing during that thing कि बस ये करना है and it should happen. And like even about like I still remember the first time this podcast had to go out on that particular day. It was supposed to go at 6 p.m. on that day, and it wasn't ready. The whole team, me, Joy, and there's an editor in our team, Vraj, we stayed at like till 1 a.m. to make sure that continuous काम करना ही है जब तक ये खत्म नहीं होता. And we uploaded that night at 1 a.m.
wow.
that podcast. About that run club, I thought कि जाकर बॉम्बे में करना ही है. So within a month, I made sure कि whatever it is possible, I have to start like making it proper, making it efficient will take time. You cannot do the perfect thing on the day one. Like वो वेट करोगे कि ये परफेक्ट टाइम आएगा या फिर वो रन क्लब खोलना है तब परफेक्ट ही चाहिए कि नहीं 200 लोग होने ही चाहिए ऐसा कुछ. I feel executing when you are whatever you are wanting
Yeah,
will
and the
make a
right
difference.
people and opportunities will find you
Yes,
because you're
yes.
intentional in doing it, regularly.
I feel just execute. Because
I love it.
everybody wants to do things, make money, make companies, build their own life, and all of that. But everyone, the difference comes in execution.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any younger guy who wants to do something should execute. Last question: what would you say to your 21-year younger self?
To my 21-year,
I feel you have done pretty well.
I would say that you actually don't need to be as afraid of speaking in public or speaking your mind or going on stage. Like, you can end up talking sense. I feel I would tell myself that.
Fair enough. You had a bad experience around that, or
No,
anyway.
I was a very shy, reserved kid. Like, I had opinions. I was very strong minded, but no one knew it. Like, everyone would know me as, okay, shy girl, cute girl, like those type of adjectives would be more associated with me versus someone who's really opinionated or like who speaks her mind or will go after whatever she wants. Like, those were not adjectives for me. It was like smart, sincere, uh, you know, uh, will like, but still shy, reserved. So I always had that because I feel that was a personality. But yeah, going to the US and there also I feel I didn't put myself. I mean, I put myself completely out there, but not as much on a public platform because I would always think that who's gonna want to hear me or like what should I even say. But I think now I realize that it's just a conversation that you're sharing something with someone and you don't have to like think so much about it. It's just a conversation and nothing else. And no one's going to like no one even has the time to even judge what any of that. So yeah, probably that.
Works.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ayushi, so much for today and giving me a lot of learnings. And also, it was a very good time to spend and connect with you as well. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I had a lovely time. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Krish.
much.
Yeah, thanks.